the Simgot EM6l Phoenix. What a badass I am. So, I've had this for a day now, since yesterday, and I've been listening to it a bit and comparing it to the Nova, and, I think, okay, so first of all, like, none of these stock tips fit, but I found some equivalently shaped silicone tips. This was sent by the company who sent me the KCPR1, and they measure the exact same, but they have this grippy texture around them, so I'm able to get a seal with these. So yeah, that's the thing. Also, we're going to be chewing Mentos tropical gum, artificially flavored, like the way we want it. We're going to be taking a red one for now, or pink, whatever color. Red fruit lime, artificially flavored. Let's go. The first song we'll be going with is High Heels from Brave Girl's best album. So the bass is a bit pillowy because there's a bit of excess energy. You can see that in the graph here. If it was more compliant to the Harman target, the bass would sound more impactful, but I can kind of see why people would want this in terms of warmth. It's like good for not really paying attention to what you're listening to maybe, but it's not really ideal for critical listening. Also, one comment I want to make is on the treble. So on 711 measurements, this doesn't show up, but on 5128 measurements, it does. There's a 12 kilohertz peak in this IM. I can hear it in my ear. And yeah, the 5128 measurement shows it clearly, even though the 711 does not. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess. Also, I do think that this recession at like 6 kilohertz is noticeable, and it does come across like it's lacking some vocal clarity. And that's really it for the Simgot EM6l. It's a pretty decent sounding IM, I'd say. 78 out of 100 is like not terrible and maybe there's more to say than just the preference rating. Like, it sounds pretty decent in the upper treble, even though there is a peak. It's pretty wide in bandwidth, so it's pretty wide in Q, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so maybe I'll just describe a little bit more in the song High Heels. So you can definitely hear some plastikiness to these instruments by this increased energy in the upper treble. I mean, the vocals just don't come across fully natural. Like, if you're really paying attention, this stuff is really easy to hear. And there's clearly too much energy in the upper frequencies too. I mean, honestly though, like, as I was kind of saying in my thoughts, like, at the end of the day, it's an IEM. Like, both Nova and EM6l will get destroyed by LCD5 in terms of just pure sound quality. So, and I do think, like, the EM6l is listenable. It's not nearly as bad as most IEMs I've heard. So, and like, honestly, like, if I were to like rate the EM6l, I'd say it's pretty good. Not amazing like the Nova is, but it's really good enough. And when it comes down to it, like, I'm not even really using Nova for critical listening that much because I'd rather use LCD5. But if you are one of those people who like use your IEMs at your desk and like for blind tests and like any real critical listening activities, then I'd suggest getting the Nova instead. Yeah, the bass is much cleaner on this. Much more clarity to the sound. Vocals come across cleanly. Before we move on to the next song to hear with the EM6l, this piece of gum has already run out of flavor, so I'm going to switch to a new one. Okay, we'll go with an orange pineapple, I think this is. No, it just says tropical artificially flavored, okay. Nice artificial flavoring, okay. So, we'll go with Take It by Ive from 11 single. It's clearly too bright. At like 6 seconds in, you can hear the instrument crashing. I think this also includes a cymbal, but this 12 kilohertz energy is really overpowering the naturalness of the sound, I think. So at 254 in the song, I'd say the best part occurs where it's like really well extended, and I think it's really meant to be the forward of the song in this part, but It comes across a little bit congested on the EM6l, and you can also hear these boosted upper treble harmonics really kind of interfering with how it's supposed to sound. But for most of the song, it sounds fine. Like, the thing is, even though this IEM does have a bit of mud, like, I do think it's balanced out pretty well by the upper treble, so it doesn't really sound that wrong. It's pretty good, I'd say. Honestly, yeah, it is pretty good. It does play back the song, at least. Now we'll listen to the same song again. Now we'll listen to the same song again on Truth Your Nova. No harshness at all. The 255 part on the Nova sounds incredible. It's clearly neutral and well-extended vocals, and it just sounds natural, unlike the EM6l. But, I mean, after listening to the EM6l and switching to this, maybe it does make this sound a little bit dark in terms of upper treble, even though it technically is more neutral. At least the times where this isn't sounding harsh, maybe it does sound a bit more detailed in the upper treble. We'll go with the classic 10-1 by Real. At 024, the harmonics at 12 kHz are clearly boosted, but it doesn't really come across as harsh here because it's pretty wide in bandwidth, and it's not as high in level as the 5128 graph would indicate, at least for my ears. So at 056, we get this sub-bass section, and it's not really hitting as hard as it should, I feel, on the EM6l. The mud is kind of taking the front stage or something with the EM6l in this song. And you can hear excess upper treble energy that's not supposed to be there in the song. Okay, we'll switch to the Nova again. No harshness whatsoever. At 056, the sub-bass impact is great. It's clearly not being masked by the mud, and there's no excess treble energy from these harmonics at 12 kHz. It's clearly very smooth and controlled and neutral on the Nova. Let's listen to one more song and then I'll end this video. We'll go with Hi Hi by Luna. Kind of curious how the EM6l will perform on this song, because generally this song has really good treble extension. At 10 seconds in, you can hear that the energy is boosted. You can hear the ringing a bit. Same story at 19 seconds. I'd say that the mud issue is definitely more noticeable in music videos than just listening to a song without a visual reference, because it does sound a bit claustrophobic, or a bit more claustrophobic than the video would indicate. There's a general plasticky timbre to the sound, I'd say, with the EM6l due to its incorrect treble tuning. At 158, there's this percussion instrument that just like randomly comes across as too bright on the EM6l, so another annoying moment. So at 246, we get to one of the famous parts of the song where Chu, just on her own, is going extremely as high as she can in the vocal range. Clearly you can hear that there's a peak in the upper treble. It's not flat sounding, but you know, this is one of my favorite songs, and I was still able to enjoy it on the EM6l despite its flaws. So in that sense, like, even though it has issues, like, I can still enjoy like almost any song I can with the Nova on it, maybe like to a slightly lesser extent, but I'd still say that the EM6l sounds good enough for most people, probably. Listening to it again on the Nova. The treble sounds perfectly flat at the start. There's no harshness at all. The vocals sound at the correct place in the mix. Let's just go to 245, or actually we'll go to that 158 thing I commented on. Yeah, I don't hear that harshness at all. Yeah, the harshness was clearly present there on the EM6l. It's not the case here. We'll go to the we'll go to the part where Chu does her solo now. Man, there's just so much clarity on the Nova. Any day I would take the Truth Your Nova over the EM6l. So, since they're around the same price, or basically the same price, I don't really see any reason why you should buy the EM6l, but I don't think the EM6l is a bad IEM by any means. It's pretty good, but it's not that good, you know. I'd like to give a shout out to Christopher Yu, the Artful Reaper, Strumpish, D Must Bring Us, Ninja Come 3, Wadeacre, Bicep James, and Trip. Thank you guys a lot for supporting the channel. Be sure to join the Apple House and Discord server. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.